I want to start today's deep dive with a scenario that I think is going to feel uncomfortably familiar to a lot of people listening, maybe even you.
Mm-hmm.
Picture this. You have the job. You have the family. On paper, you are absolutely winning at life. You sleep 7, maybe 8 hours a night. You even just got back from a week off.
The vacation, right?
The vacation. And yet, you are sitting in your car, in the driveway, just staring at the steering wheel, and you feel empty. Not just, I need a coffee, tired, but like depleted. Like the battery won't hold a charge anymore.
It's the great paradox of the modern high performer, isn't it? Everything is working perfectly on the outside, but the engine just won't start on the inside.
Right. And the immediate reaction, and the sources we're covering today were really emphatic about this, especially for men over 35, is self-blame. You sit there and you think, I must be lazy, or I've lost my edge, or...
I just need to stop whining and push through.
Exactly. Which is, biologically speaking, the exact moment the trap snaps shut.
It really is.
And that's what we are unpacking today. We have a massive stack of clinical research, hormonal analysis, and psychological literature that argues this isn't a motivation problem. It is a physiological dysregulation. We're talking chronic fatigue, the hidden mechanics of stress after 35, and why your attempts to relax, watching Netflix, scrolling your phone, might actually be destroying your energy.
The headline from the medical journals is pretty stark. It's that the way most of us have been taught to rest is technically, chemically, almost indistinguishable from stress.
That is a massive claim. So let's get into it. We need to define the beast first, because I think people throw around the word tired very loosely. But medically, tired and chronic fatigue, they're not the same sport, are they?
Not even the same league. Think of ordinary fatigue as a simple financial transaction. It's a bank account.
Okay.
You go for a run, you work a hard day, that's a withdrawal. You sleep, you eat, you sit on the couch, that's a deposit. In a healthy system, the math works. You wake up reset.
Meaning, if I run a 5K today, I'm wrecked, but tomorrow I feel stronger because I actually recovered.
Precisely. That's functional adaptation. But chronic fatigue, or what the literature sometimes calls burnout syndrome, is when the banking system collapses. You make the deposit, you sleep 8 hours, but the balance doesn't go up.
It just doesn't register.
It doesn't. You wake up just as overdrawn as you went to bed. And that is the defining characteristic. Rest loses its restorative power.
There was a specific term in the research that just jumped out at me, post-exertional malaise. It sounds fancy, but the description was just brutal.
It's the clinical term for what you could call the paradox of exertion. In a healthy body, exertion creates energy. You know that feeling after a gym session where you feel buzzed and alive?
Sure, endorphins. You feel like you can take on the world.
Right. Well, in this chronic state, that mechanism inverts. Exertion, and this is key, it includes mental exertion, like a budget meeting or a difficult conversation with a spouse, doesn't release energy, it compounds the debt.
So you try to power through a workout to clear your head, and instead of feeling better, you crash.
You crash. You feel flu-like symptoms. It's a total system failure.
And brain fog sets in. I want to pause on brain fog because I feel like that term gets used to excuse just being bored or distracted. But the sources were treating it as a very specific neurological event.
It was very real. It's not just spacing out. The literature describes it as a reduction in neural processing speed. Imagine your brain as a computer browser. You usually have 50 tabs open and it runs fine. Brain fog is what happens when the RAM is maxed out.
The spinning wheel of death.
Exactly. You click a tab, the spinning wheel comes up. You look at a menu, and you can't decide between the burger or the salad because the executive function required to weigh the pros and cons is just... it's offline.
So it's an energy-saving mode.
It's an energy conservation mode. The body is effectively saying, we don't have the voltage to run high-level cognitive tasks, so we are dimming the lights.
Okay, so if this isn't just laziness, what is happening under the hood? Because the research pointed to a very specific age range where this falls off a cliff, the mid-30s to early 40s. Why, then? Why does the warranty expire at 35?
This is the part that usually blows people's minds. There is a shift in what's called allostatic load.
Allostatic load. Okay, break that down for us.
It's basically the cumulative wear and tear on the body that's caused by chronic stress. In your 20s, your system is really elastic. We call it the mobilize and return strategy.
Right.
You get stressed, maybe a deadline or a late night out. Your HPA axis, that's the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal system, it fires up. Cortisol spikes, adrenaline pumps, you handle the threat. And then snap, you bounce back to baseline.
I remember those days. You could pull an all-nighter, drink a coffee, and be totally fine by noon.
Totally fine. But after 35, that elasticity stiffens.
Mm-hmm.
The body still mobilizes perfectly well, the alarm goes off, the chemicals flood in, but the return mechanism fails. You don't go all the way back to baseline. You stay slightly elevated. The rubber band doesn't snap back. It stays stretched.
So you're walking around with a baseline level of stress chemistry that is higher than it was 10 years ago, even if you're just sitting in a chair.
Correct. And this leads to what we call the cortisol trap. We often paint cortisol as this villain, but it's not. It's a hero hormone. It's an alarm system meant to save your life. But it's designed for short bursts, 20 minutes to outrun a predator.
Right.
In modern midlife, that alarm gets stuck in the on-end position.
And this is where the trade-off happens. I found this section on the hormonal seesaw fascinating because I think most men hear low testosterone and they just think about sex drive. But this deep dive paints a much scarier picture.
It's a zero-sum game. Think of your body's resources like a factory floor. You have raw materials, specifically cholesterol and these precursor hormones like pregnenolone. Your body has to decide what to build.
It can build stress hormones or it can build thriving hormones.
Exactly. Making testosterone, building muscle, repairing tissue, maintaining a high drive for life, those are expensive biological projects. They're long-term investments. But cortisol, that's the emergency fund.
So if the alarm is stuck on in?
The body prioritizes survival over thriving. It says, why would I build muscle or libido for next year when I might not survive the afternoon? It actually steals the raw materials. They call it the Pregnenolone Steal that would become testosterone, and it turns them into more cortisol.
So when you feel that lack of drive, that apathy, it's not a character flaw. It's your body aggressively prioritizing safety because it thinks you are in a war zone.
Even if the war zone is just a mortgage and an endless email chain, your hypothalamus, the command center, does not distinguish between a lion is chasing me and my boss is emailing me at 10 p.m.
Chemical cascade is identical.
It's identical.
That is terrifying. But it leads us into how this survival state actually rewires the brain. Because it's not just that we feel tired, our personality changes. The sources mention that empathy is a luxury function. That hit me hard.
It's a heavy concept, isn't it? But it makes sense biologically. Empathy requires the prefrontal cortex, the most advanced human part of the brain, to be fully online. You have to step out of your own perspective, model someone else's emotions, regulate your own reaction.
That takes a lot of energy. It burns a lot of fuel to be a nice person.
It really does. Now, if your brain is in survival mode, scanning for threats, it diverts energy away from the prefrontal cortex to the amygdala, the lizard brain. It cuts the luxuries. It cuts patience. It cuts nuance. It cuts empathy.
So when your partner says, you seem distant, or you don't care about my day, and you're sitting there thinking, I physically cannot make myself care about your lunch drama right now.
You aren't being a jerk.
Oh.
You're experiencing compassion fatigue or neurological overload. Your brain treats that conversation as just another task it doesn't have the battery for.
It's not a lack of love.
It's a lack of glucose and oxygen in the right parts of the brain.
That reframing is huge. It takes the moral judgment out of it. But here's the trap I think we all fall into. We feel this exhaustion. We feel the lizard brain taking over. So we think, okay, I need to rest. We go home, we flop onto the sofa, and we open Netflix. Or we scroll TikTok for 2 hours, and the sources are screaming, this is not rest.
This is the myth of modern rest.
Yeah.
And frankly, it is the primary reason we are staying sick. You have to understand dysregulation. If your internal alarm system is stuck on end, sitting still doesn't turn it off. There is a quote in the material that I loved. You can't rest inside an alarm.
But hold on, let me play devil's advocate here. Why is the phone specifically bad? I mean, I'm just looking at memes. I'm not working. I'm physically
You
stationary.
aren't working, but you are processing. Think about what scrolling is. It's a rapid-fire series of context switches. A war in Europe.
Right.
Swipe. A cute puppy. Swipe. A recipe. Swipe. An infuriating political opinion. Every single one of those requires a micro-adjustment in your brain.
It's dopamine hits, isn't it?
It's dopaminergic leaping, yes, but it's also microstressors. The brain is constantly analyzing, is this a threat? Is this a reward? You are blasting your visual cortex with high-speed data. You are technically stimulating the brain when it is begging for silence.
So we're feeding the beast, we're trying to starve, we are treating exhaustion with overstimulation.
Exactly. And unlike physical work, which has a starting point, you build the wall is done. Information consumption has no bottom. You can scroll forever. So the brain never gets the all-clear signal. It never gets the signal that the hunt is over and it's safe to sleep.
Okay, so we've painted a pretty bleak picture here. We are hormonally dysregulated, our alarm systems are jammed, our empathy is offline, and our method of relaxing is actually making it worse. Let's pivot to the solution, because the sources were very clear. The answer isn't quit your job and move to a yurt.
No. And that's so important because quitting usually just adds financial stress, which keeps the cortisol high. The solution starts with a physiological rule. Regeneration cannot happen until the nervous system feels safe.
Safe is a loaded word, though. I feel safe in my living room. Nobody is attacking me. But my body disagrees.
Safety to your nervous system isn't just the absence of a tiger. It is the absence of demand. It is the absence of next. The prerequisite for healing is turning off the vigilance. And you do that through what the researchers call the empty moment.
The empty moment. This sounds, well, boring.
It is excruciatingly boring at first, and that's the point. It is a biological need for moments where nothing is produced and, crucially, nothing is consumed.
So no podcasts, no music, no audiobooks.
Nothing. If you are listening to a podcast, you are consuming information. If you are planning dinner, you are producing a plan.
Yeah.
The brain needs a no-input state. It needs to idle.
I can hear people rolling their eyes right now. Great, I'm busy, I have kids, I have a boss, and your advice is to sit there and do nothing. How do we actually do this without going crazy?
We aren't talking about hour-long meditation sessions. The sources recommend micro breaks. These are interventions lasting just 2 to 4 minutes.
2 minutes. That's enough to fix a hormonal imbalance.
It's enough to puncture the stress balloon. Think of your stress as a pressure cooker building up steam all day. If you wait until 8 p.m. to release it, the lid has already blown off.
You're just managing the pressure.
You need to release the steam valve every few hours to keep the pressure manageable.
So what does a valid micro break look like? Give us the tactical list.
3 things came up repeatedly in the data. First, optical flow. This is getting outside and looking at the horizon. Panoramic vision.
Why does looking at the horizon matter?
It's all evolution. When we are stressed or focused, our vision narrows. It's called focal vision. It signals vigilance. When you widen your gaze to a horizon, it creates optic flow, the image of the world moving past you. This physically signals the amygdala to calm down.
Wow.
It triggers the parasympathetic nervous system.
So just staring at a wall in my office isn't enough.
It's better than a screen, but looking at a distance is way better. Walking without a phone is the gold standard. The self-generated motion plus the visual flow is a direct safety signal to the brain.
Okay, walking without a phone. What else?
Second is the physiological sigh. This is a specific breathing pattern that pops up in a lot of neurobiology. It's 2 inhales through the nose. First a big one, then a tiny one to pop the air sacs open, followed by a long, slow exhale through the mouth.
I've seen this in the Huberman protocols. It offloads CO2, right?
Exactly. It offloads carbon dioxide and manually slows the heart rate via the vagus nerve. It is the fastest way to flip the switch from fight or flight to rest and digest. Do that 10 times, it takes 90 seconds.
90 seconds. Okay, and the third?
The third is simply transition gaps. Before you switch from work mode to dad mode or meeting mode to email mode, you take 2 minutes of silence. You don't jump straight into the next task. You let the brain close the previous file.
It sounds so small.
It is small, but the cumulative effect is massive. You are manually resetting the breaker. You are telling your body, I am safe. There is no tiger. You can stop stealing my testosterone now.
There was a warning in the conclusion of the research that I really want to highlight. It was about willpower. Because I know a lot of people listening are high-agency people. They solve problems by working harder.
Yes, this is critical for the high performers. We are trained to grit our teeth, to embrace the suck, but you cannot use willpower to fight physiological exhaustion.
It's like yelling at a car with no gas to go faster.
Or trying to budget your way out of poverty when you have 0 income. It just doesn't work. If you use willpower to override your body's need for safety, if you force yourself to run that 10K when you're already fried, you just deepen the dysregulation.
You're just making it worse.
You increase the allostatic load, you push the crash further down the road, and you make the recovery much, much longer.
So the bravest thing you can do isn't pushing through, it's actually stopping.
In this context, stopping is the high-performance move. Formula One cars don't win by skipping pit stops. They win because their pit stops are efficient. If they skip the stop, the tires blow out, and they lose the race.
I love that analogy. It turns rest into strategy rather than laziness.
That is the ultimate shift.
Okay, let's bring this home. We've covered the biology of the cortisol trap, the brain fog, why scrolling is just fake rest, and how looking at the horizon can actually hack our nervous system. If we had to distill this into one takeaway for the person who is listening to this in their car right now, nodding along, what is it?
The summary is that this chronic exhaustion is not a character flaw. It is not who you are. It is a biological bill that has come due because you've been living in survival mode without ever resetting the alarm.
We need to stop viewing fatigue as the enemy.
Right. Don't view the fatigue as a weakness to be ashamed of. View it as an intelligent feedback. Your body is smart. It is screaming at you, I have run out of resources. I cannot process any more data. I need safety.
It's a check engine light. And you don't smash the check engine light with a hammer. You pull over and check the oil.
Exactly. And checking the oil looks like silence. It looks like staring at the horizon. It looks like being bored for 5 minutes so you can be alive for the other 16 hours.
This has been a massive reality check, I think, for a lot of us. Just knowing that the scrolling is hurting us and that the empty moment is the cure is going to be the game changer.
I hope so.
Yeah.
The biology is clear. You cannot hack this. You have to heal it.
I want to leave everyone with one final thought from the deep dive notes. It's something to chew on as you go about your day, hopefully while taking a micro break and staring at a tree. If you are tired, it isn't because you're doing too little. It's because you have been strong for too long without feeling safe.
Safety first, then strength.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll catch you on the next one.